So there's been a lot of talk, and I found it bizarre, really, about companies telling Boris to shut their pubs and bars and entertainment venues and the like, so that they could reclaim their loss of earnings through their insurance business. Now, I didn't know you could have such insurances, and from what I can tell, they don't really exist. But anyway, in order to clear up this difficulty, we've asked Zahid Naqvi, I hope that's correct, it doesn't sound correct, Managing Director of Custodian Insurance, to lead us through this path.
The first port of call, I think, that's getting the most attention is business interruption insurance. So what does this do? This basically covers a business's loss of profit or increased cost of working. Now the standard covers really are there for if there's a flood or a fire. And clearly this is neither of those things. But some of these policies have an infectious disease part of them. So I think it's a question for businesses to look to see if they have the infectious disease extension. To be honest with you, most businesses won't. If they're in hospitality, they're more likely to have it. But a year ago, the pandemic, no one foresaw anything like this. So if they have got the extension, that's good news. And then it's a case of some of them will list which diseases are covered, which causes some problems because COVID wasn't in contemplation when, even a year ago.
Good point.
However, there are other, without getting into too much details, but there are some other wordings which say any notifiable disease. Okay, so what's a notifiable disease? Well, COVID is. The government declared it a notifiable disease in England on the 5th of March. Now, there is some complication here without going too complex. And that the trigger is a bit curious in that the government hasn't declared a ban or a public order on movement. So it's advised people not to go out, not to go to pubs, not to go to this place or that place. And the public has chosen to follow it, but it isn't a prohibition. You've recently heard the government had a bailout announced of 350 billion. Well, the whole UK insurance market in premium terms is about 160 billion. So you don't have to be a mathematician to see that actually they completely don't have the capacity to pay these, to pay these claims as well.
Yes, that's a very good point, Zahid. That in the event that everybody, that there are a big enough numbers, we'll say, I don't know, 8% or something, make it a small number of the bars, clubs, etc. that were covered, would the insurance companies have that kind of readiness to write a check to somebody?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the scale and the number. I mean, the problem is the more losses are put into within the insurance market. I mean, obviously then they'll have to, some will fall over and some will then have to put their prices up quite prohibitively in order to try and get back into a profit situation. So they don't have, I don't think there's a capacity there to cover, to actually take on all of the things. So we've talked about business interruption. I mean, there are other areas of insurance that are worth mentioning as well. I don't know if we've got time just to flag a couple of others.
Yeah, go on. Let's go through it. This is important for some of our listeners.
Yeah, so, for businesses, there'll be difficult choices for many businesses to make about, how to continue trading. And for some, business performance may tumble, which will then cause problems for the shareholders of that business and maybe for their suppliers if they can't pay suppliers and so on. So a business may then get, I suppose, some claims from their shareholders or from their suppliers or other parties alleging that the directors somehow failed to manage the company properly or to run the company in a good way. I know there's a class action against the Norwegian cruise liner that we've all heard about, which was in quarantine for a while. So And in that case, there's the policy. A lot of businesses have policy called directors and officers cover, which would give them or should give them some protection around that if it comes to that. There's a thing called employment kind of dispute insurance, and clearly many businesses will have to take quite drastic action. They'll need to, consider things like pay cuts, downsizing, reducing hours, redundancies, those kind of things for some, in order to manage their cost base. And this is going to be hard on employees. It's hard for employers, and it'll be very hard, even harder for employees as well. And in making those decisions, businesses will have to make sure that they make them in the right way and don't open themselves, leave themselves vulnerable to claims of discrimination or unfair dismissal or any of those things. Now, if they do find themselves in that situation, then there could be some cover under employment dispute insurance or employer's practice insurance.
Zahid, thank you very much indeed. Very, very, very clearly and well put. I didn't know about the cruise liner being sued. I mean, God knows how bosses were supposed to know this lot were coming around the corner. But thank you very much indeed. Zahid Naqvi is Managing Director of Custodian Insurance.